Conventional wisdom says you buy a starter home, max out your 401k, and wait 30 years. The financial media treats this baseline as a guaranteed path to wealth. But here is what nobody in mainstream finance wants to admit. In a world of 7% mortgages and persistent inflation, the old playbook is completely broken. Following the traditional path in 2025 does not make you wealthy. It makes you trapped. You become house poor. You become liquidity starved. You end up trading your most energetic years for a delayed payout that might not buy what you think it will. The old rules were built for an economy that no longer exists. If you want to actually build wealth today, you need new ideas. You need a completely different framework for how you earn, save, and deploy capital. The problem with traditional financial advice is that it assumes static conditions. It assumes housing prices will always align with local wages. It assumes your corporate job is perfectly secure. It assumes inflation will always hover around a polite 2%. But look at the reality of the U.S. economy right now. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, housing affordability is near its lowest point in history. The Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that core costs of living are permanently elevated. The math simply does not work the way it did in 1995. When the math changes, your strategy has to change. The first cost of following outdated advice is obvious. You lose money. But there is a second hidden cost most people ignore. You lose optionality. You lock up your capital in illiquid assets and trap yourself in a defensive posture. Today, I'm going to walk you through the new rules of money. These are the modern principles of wealth building that actually work in this economic environment. By the end, you will understand that the safest financial path today is actually the one everyone else thinks is risky. Rule 1. Liquidity is more valuable than equity. For decades, the ultimate financial goal was a paid-off house. People poured every spare dollar into extra mortgage payments. Today, that is a trap. Home equity is completely useless when you lose your job. You cannot buy groceries with drywall. The new rule is that cash and liquid investments are king. Having $200,000 in a taxable brokerage account gives you massive optionality. Having $200,000 trapped in home equity gives you nothing but a piece of paper. When opportunities arise or emergencies strike, the person with liquid capital wins. The person with a heavy balance sheet but no cash gets crushed. Rule 2. Renting is no longer throwing money away. We need to kill this myth permanently. The old idea was that your primary residence is your best investment. The new reality is that uncoupling your housing from your investments is a massive advantage. Look at the numbers in major markets like Austin or Phoenix. The monthly cost to buy a median home often exceeds the cost to rent a comparable property by over $1,200. When you rent, you cap your downside. Your rent is the maximum you will pay every month for housing. When you own, your mortgage is the minimum you will pay. If you take that $1,200 monthly difference and invest it in the S&P 500 at an 8% return, over 30 years it becomes approximately $1.7 million. That is liquid wealth you can actually use. Rule 3. Your human capital peaks faster than you think. The old model was a slow, steady climb up the corporate ladder for 40 years. The new rule recognizes that your peak earning years are highly compressed. Most wage growth happens between age 30 and 45. After that, age discrimination and skill obsolescence become very real threats. You cannot assume your income will rise forever. You have to aggressively monetize your skills right now. You need to negotiate harder, jump companies more frequently, and capture as much equity as possible while your specific knowledge is in demand. Delaying gratification on your career trajectory is a massive mistake. Rule 4. The 4% rule is dangerously optimistic. Financial planners love telling you that you can withdraw 4% of your portfolio in retirement. They base this on historical data from a heavily US-centric post-war boom. The new rule is that a 3% withdrawal rate is the only safe harbor. Inflation is stickier than we thought. Market valuations are incredibly high. If you retire early and hit a bad sequence of returns in your first 5 years, a 4% withdrawal rate will bankrupt you. You need to lower your expectations on withdrawal rates and increase your target portfolio size. It is not what people want to hear. It is just the math. Rule 5. Cash-flowing side businesses beat passive index funds. I am not telling you to stop investing in your 401k. I am telling you it is not enough. The old way was relying entirely on stock market returns to build wealth. The new way is building digital or physical assets that you actually control. A small service business or digital product that generates $2,000 a month in free cash flow is financially equivalent to having $600,000 sitting in a dividend fund yielding 4%. It takes vastly less time to build a $2,000 monthly cash flow than it does to save $600,000. Control your own yield. Stop waiting 30 years for a mutual fund to pay you. Rule 6. Geographic arbitrage is the ultimate cheat code. You do not have to live where you earn. The old economy required you to pay San Francisco rent to earn a San Francisco salary. The new economy allows you to earn San Francisco dollars while paying Midwest living costs. If you can secure a remote U.S. salary and move from California to a no-income tax state like Texas or Florida, you instantly give yourself a massive raise. You are cutting state taxes to zero. You're cutting housing costs in half. This single move can accelerate your retirement timeline by a decade. Do not pay a premium for a location unless that location is actively paying you back. Rule 7. Health span is the ultimate asset class. We spend our entire lives trying to accumulate capital for retirement, but nobody talks about the physical capacity required to actually enjoy it. The old mindset viewed health as a medical issue. The new mindset views health as a financial strategy. If you reach 65 with $2.5 million, but you have metabolic dysfunction and chronic joint pain, your wealth is useless. You're just going to transfer it directly to the healthcare system. Spending $500 a month right now on premium food, a gym membership, and preventative diagnostics is not an expense. It is a strict financial hedge against catastrophic medical costs later in life. Rule 8. Debt is a tool for the disciplined and a weapon for the weak. The traditional advice from financial personalities is that all debt is evil. Cut up your credit cards and pay cash for everything. That advice is meant for people with zero impulse control. The new rule is that fixed-rate debt in an inflationary environment is a massive wealth creator. If you have a 3% fixed mortgage from a few years ago and inflation is running at 4%, the bank is quite literally paying you to borrow their money. The purchasing power of your debt is eroding. You should never prepay low-interest debt. You stretch it out as long as humanly possible and invest the difference. Rule 9. Default behavior guarantees a default life. The system is perfectly optimized to separate you from your money. Every app on your phone, every car dealership, every subscription service is engineered by very smart people to capture your cash flow. If you do what everyone else does, you will get what everyone else gets. And what everyone else gets is a mountain of consumer debt and a delayed retirement. You have to actively opt out of the default American lifestyle. Driving a 10-year-old Toyota when you make $200,000 a year is not cheap. It is a deliberate refusal to participate in a broken system. Let me show you exactly how these new rules play out in the real world. Let us look at two software developers living in Seattle. Both are 35 years old. Both make $160,000 a year. Matthew follows the old rules. He feels pressure to get on the property ladder. He buys a $900,000 house with a 7% mortgage. His monthly payment, including property taxes and insurance, is roughly $6,500. He buys a new $50,000 SUV on a 5-year loan. On paper, he looks incredibly successful. In reality, his fixed costs consume almost his entire take-home pay. He is maxing out his 401k, but he has less than $10,000 in liquid savings. He is terrified of losing his job because he is completely trapped by his overhead. Brian follows the new rules. He ignores the pressure to buy. He rents a high-end apartment for $3,500 a month. Because he is saving $3,000 a month on housing costs compared to Matthew, he aggressively funds a taxable brokerage account. He drives a reliable 2016 sedan that he bought for cash. When their company announces massive layoffs, the contrast is brutal. Matthew panics. He is immediately forced to take the first job he finds, which pays 20% less, just to keep his house. He takes on credit card debt to cover the gap. Brian does not flinch. He has $150,000 in liquid assets. He uses the layoff as an opportunity. He takes 6 months off, builds a niche software consulting business, and eventually replaces his old salary while working completely for himself. Same city, same income, same job. Both faced the exact same macroeconomic shock. But Brian optimized for liquidity and optionality. Matthew optimized for social status and heavy assets. This is the reality of the modern economy. The rules of the game have been rewritten, but most people are still playing by the old rulebook. The financial industry wants you to believe that wealth is about accumulation. They want you to lock your money up in illiquid assets and mutual funds for 40 years. They want you to be a passive participant in a system they control. But true wealth in 2025 is not about the gross size of your balance sheet. It is about how much control you have over your time tomorrow morning. It is about the ability to walk away from a toxic boss. It is about the ability to absorb a financial shock without breaking a sweat. Every dollar you keep liquid is a unit of freedom. Every fixed cost you avoid is a reduction in your stress baseline. You have to stop playing the game the way the banks want you to play it. Stop trading your flexibility for the illusion of security. The only real security you have is your skills, your cash, and your ability to pivot when the math changes. Do the math. Run the numbers. Protect your optionality. The old American dream is a financial trap.